This meeting to order. This is a public meeting of the Mukwonago Area School District Board. It's been properly posted, noticed, and it is subject to the open meeting laws of the state of Wisconsin. We'll start our meeting with a moment of silence. Thank you. Just a reminder to our school board members, those present in the audience and those watching via live stream, this is our annual reorganization meeting. And so we will be electing our school board officers tonight, and thus I'll run the meeting until we elect a president. So we'll do roll call. Erica Connor. Here. Joel Frericks.
Here.
Dale Porter.
Here.
Art Schneider.
Here.
Vito Schwartz.
Here.
Carolyn Simon.
Here.
Craig Verts.
Here.
Steve Waddles.
Here.
And Cherry Winchowski.
Here.
Typically, we would do the Pledge of Allegiance next, but instead tonight we have 3 students from Parkview Middle School who will sing the National Anthem. So please welcome Katie Lashinsky, Bethany Paulson, and Layla Presendorfer. These are the 3 young ladies that were selected for the State Honors Choir earlier this year, and they're under the direction of Lori Wildeman, who, as you know, was recognized as the Wisconsin Middle School Director of the Year earlier this year. Go ahead.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Great job, ladies. Thank you. So we have 3 new school board members tonight. Carolyn Simon and Dale Porter were elected to their seats on April 5th, and Steve Waddles was selected by the board last week to fill the vacant seat. Craig Verts was also reelected to his seat on April 5th. So congratulations to all 4 of you, and it's my understanding that all 4 of you have taken your oath of office with Laura Strejka earlier last week. So we're good to go. So we can move on to the election of our officers. We'll start with the board president. I'll guide us through this process, and then the newly elected president will take over for the rest of the officer elections and the remainder of the meeting. I'll ask for nominations for board president. If you would like, you can nominate someone on the board. Raise your hand and make that motion. There is no need for a second to the motion. You can nominate yourself, and please note you can also vote for yourself. Typically, we do ask the nominee after they've been nominated if they actually want to serve in the position, so that's a courtesy. But at this time, I will ask for nominations. So, Art.
I would like to nominate Erica Connor.
Okay, we have a nomination for Erica Connor for board president.
I'll second. Oh, yeah, we don't need to.
That's all right.
Sorry.
You can second it if you'd like.
I would like to withdraw my second.
I'll ask Any other nominations for board president? I'll ask one more time. Any other nominations for board president? If not, we have a nomination for Erica Connor as board president. So when you vote for board officers, you have three choices. We can do it typical voice vote. You can also do it by roll call, or you can do it by ballot. And it's the one time that you can do it by secret ballot. That's the only time school boards can do a secret ballot when you do officers. So unless I hear something differently, we'll do it by voice. Okay, so all those in favor of Erica Connor as board president, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Erica is board president. Congratulations.
You want it?
You didn't ask if I wanted it, actually. Nobody asked.
elected.
Okay, at this
Conveniently
time, I will
forgot.
take nominations for the vice president. Art,
I would like to nominate Craig Verts for vice president.
Craig, do you accept that nomination?
Yes.
Okay. I will ask if there are any other nominations. We do this 3 times, just so you know. Any other nominations? Okay, and by voice vote, all those in favor of Craig Verts as vice president, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Congratulations, Craig. At this point, we'll take nominations for school board clerk. Art,
I would like to nominate Sherry Winchowski.
Cherry, do you accept the nomination? I do. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Okay, by voice vote for Cherry Winchowski as school board clerk, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Cherry Winchowski as clerk. Last but not least, I will accept nominations apparently from Art for treasurer.
I would like to nominate Joel.
Joel, do you accept nomination? Yes. Okay. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? By voice vote of Joel Freerick for treasurer, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Congratulations, Joel. We will continue on in the meeting, and we will go first to citizens' comments. I have 3. Mark Summers.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Mark.
Glad we've got such a turnout tonight. It's usually not this many people.
When you bring students to a school board meeting, that's
Yeah,
when people come.
we should do that more often, right, people? Right, parents? All right. And congrats to our newly elected school board members. And Steve for being voted into the school board, and Craig for your re-election. A few things that I want to touch base on. I see it on the Student Learning Committee, the SEL, and I think I've gone at length about SEL and what it's built on. And I did look at the attachment that was in the agenda, and it has no information in it. It lists out block by block, kindergarten through 6th grade, and it says there are domains that have the instructional materials. The instructional materials should be transparent to the parents. That's definitely needed before SEL takes any effect in our school system. As I've stated, and I'll state it again, SEL was built on CRT, same pillars. That's how it was designed. And if you want to check it out, I ask every parent to go to castle.org. It's called Transformative SEL. The next portion of that is, how about the opt-out? There should be opt-out for parents that do not want their children going through the SEL curriculum. Next, the COVID mitigation that took place was reinstated on March 28th. Sorry I wasn't here for that meeting. I would have had a big voice on that one at that time. It was understood by some people that were here that it was stated that there's a mandate in place and it's a state law. That's what I've been told. First of all, there is no state law for COVID. None whatsoever. And if it's being stated, state statute 252 for communicable diseases, it's not true. That's based on HIV, not COVID. I've read through it. And any legal counsel that is stating that should be re-examined. And I think we need new legal counsel for our district because that's incorrect. And I'll state again, there's no mandate. There's no emergency orders. The emergency orders have been proven to be illegal anyway. So I would like to know why that was reinstated. I have a pretty good guess, and I think I've been pretty vocal about ESSER funds and the need for a COVID mitigation, and that being brought back in. Prove me wrong. Take it out. I'd like to be proven wrong. So I'm asking that the COVID mitigation for the 5-day isolation, somebody make a motion and remove it. And that's all I have. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Mark. Next, we have Alan Buchholz.
Good evening, everybody. For the new board members, I am Alan Buchholz. I am the terminal manager at Dousman Transport for Mukwonago. So it's nice to meet you. As always, with any of the board members, if there's any concerns or questions, feel free to reach out anytime. Okay? A few things I wanted to address or talk to you about on behalf of the DTC Mukwonago terminal. I wanted to say thank you to the board for the extra increase in rates, which has allowed us to pay our drivers more, be more competitive with our competitors with wages. It's also helped us with some retention. We have drivers who, like other people, shop around for jobs to make more money. So that has helped us with some of the retention. And we're hoping within the next weeks and months to come that helps us pick up new drivers to add to our roster. Secondly, I'd like to introduce our new Assistant Terminal Manager, Katrina Kine. She has taken over for Sarah, who worked with me for 21 years and has decided to move on to other things. And lastly, the last couple of years have been very tough for all of us, for the students, the staff, and especially our bus drivers. So thank you very much for all that you guys have done for us, for your patience, especially the patience with how tough things have been, especially the employment part of it, of getting new people in. It's been very tough, but at Mukwonago we've been very lucky in that our turnovers is very low. So thank you very much for everything you guys done and your patience. That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alan.
And then last, I have Karen Tilke on Health Book.
Hi, I just want to thank you for letting me speak. I just want to make sure that I haven't been able to make the meetings for the health book, and I would ask the board that all of the information for the health book be disclosed to the parents prior to making any decisions. I think they deserve that right to understand what the program's about and what information is making any changes, or even what the information contains. I think that's an important thing.
Oh, nobody would know.
Rodell.
Odell?
Rodell.
Minutes are up, Erica.
I forgot to tell people there's a time limit, actually. So we will move forward to our consent agenda while that is attended to. He's helping as well. So I think we have a majority. We'll keep going. I would like to move on to the consent agenda. I'm looking for the approval of the school board minutes of March 28th, 2022, and the special meeting minutes of April 19th, 2022, as well as approval of voucher numbers 136724 to 137016 in the amount of 1.7 million and change, and receipts for March 2022 totaling 10 million and change. Do I have any questions or concerns? Hearing none, those are approved by consent. We will move into student rep report.
In the community education program, parents and their infants and toddlers bond through musical experiences in the Mini Musician, a parent and child experience classes, which are held on Saturday mornings. Our after-school yoga class has been well attended during April, and a new session will open up in May. Kindergarten through second grade students can enroll in a workshop to make unique Mother's Day gifts on Saturday morning, April 30th, at the high school in the Mother's Garden Craft class. This summer catalog is now available, featuring exercise and craft opportunities.
Last week, the entire 8th grade class came over from PVMS and parochial schools for an orientation day at MHS. They were given a tour by MHS students, had a Q&A session with their assigned MHS counselor, and played some icebreaker games to top the day off. MHS sent 28 students and 2 advisor teachers to the Host of Future Health Professionals State Leadership Competition. These students competed in various events like CPR/first aid, pharmacology, health career display, community awareness, and medical reading. 6 students made it to the top 3 in their event, and all were invited to the International Conference in Nashville, Tennessee this summer.
At Parkview Middle School, 54 Parkview Middle Schoolers participated in 45 events at the Solo and Ensemble Festival on April 2nd at Greendale High School. Mukwonago High School's choir participation level was the highest out of all of the other participating schools. Mrs. Wildeman is proud of everyone who garnered enough courage and strength to sing for the competition. A special shout out to Guys and Ties for earning a perfect score from their judge. All singers will celebrate their success at the Parkview Music Awards ceremonies held at PVMS in the cafeteria on June 7th from 2:45 to 3:45. Everyone is invited, and there will be cake and ice cream for all. PVMS is pleased to announce its 2022 Kiwanis Student of the Year. Each year, the Mukwonago Kiwanis Club recognizes students who demonstrate academic excellence, exemplary leadership, and community involvement. Congratulations to Catherine W., Julia S., and Brianna W. At the annual Wisconsin Association for Student Council Conference, the PVMS delegation earned the following awards. A gold award earned by the PVMS Leadership Board in the Best Project category for the Coin War to support Street Angels of Milwaukee. A gold award to Leah W., who wrote an essay to the prompt, Describe a Lion in Your Life and How They Made a Difference in Who You Are Today. A gold award earned by Catherine W. for her response in writing to the prompt, Even the King of the Jungle Needs Someone to Look Up to, who has been a great role model for your leadership and growth, and what have you learned from them? Parkview could not be prouder of their remarkable students. Congratulations to Miss Lisa Rabel for her selection in the Region 4 2021 through 22 Student Council Jam Advisor of the Year. This award from the Wisconsin Association of School Councils recognizes student government advisors for their contributions to the school and community. Mrs. Rabel, with her co-advisor, Mrs. Poslinski, has made the PVMS student government a model of inclusion, accessibility, service, and involvement. The Street Angels replaced a van that was vandalized earlier this year. The homeless outreach group does important work in the Milwaukee community. PVMS is proud to support the Street Angels' efforts through the years of student government-sponsored Coin Wars. The Coin War Committee of Ella K., Naya B., and Jazzy F. coordinated a successful fundraiser and presented the Street Angels with a check for $3,750, lunches for later, and 3 cases of water. Thank you to Parkview students, families, and staff for supporting this worthwhile cause.
All students at Big Bend participated in the Cereal Box Challenge. They had to design and construct a pair of shoes for themselves using only cardboard from a cereal box and duct tape. The shoes had to stay on their feet while they walked. Students planned built, tested, evaluated, and adjusted their prototypes before putting the finishing touches on by decorating them with paint, feathers, glitter, and other fun things. At the end of the challenge, Big Bend celebrated everyone's hard work with a shoe parade. Sixth graders at Big Bend Elementary School presented their Newton's Laws findings at Newton Fest. Students were asked to pose a question that allowed them to develop an experiment demonstrating one of Newton's laws of motion. Students recorded data to prove or disprove their hypothesis. Students shared their findings in a gallery walk for the rest of the school.
At Clarendon, during the weeks of April 4th and April 11th, the second grade students participated in the YMCA Safety Around Water program. Students learned about pool and beach safety, and they practiced throwing a buoy out going into the water. A YMCA instructor visited the students at school for 2 lessons, and the second graders finished the program with a field trip to the YMCA pool. Clarendon had their annual art show on April 14th. All students created artwork with a pirate theme. There was a large turnout with many students dressing up, a treasure hunt, projects, a photo booth, and a treasure chest full of prizes. Clarendon thanks their friends at Mobile Village Pumper in Mukwonago for their $500 donation. The donation is part of ExxonMobil's Education Alliance program, and Clarendon is thrilled to be a recipient. Phil Whitman from Condon Oil Company produced the check to the principal, Mrs. Kaplan. This donation will support the upcoming science, technology, engineering, art, and math programs at Clarendon Avenue Elementary. Clarendon thanks everyone that donated to their Coins for College fundraiser. They raised over $2,000, which is enough to award 3 scholarships to former Clarendon students who are seniors at MHS. April 2nd was Jackson Spart's birthday. Clarendon students and staff celebrate his birthday by wearing their favorite jersey on Fridays. Congratulations to 6th graders Drew, Matthew, and Evelyn for the Kiwanis Student of the Year awards. Clarendon is very proud.
Eagleville hosted its first ever Student Maker Fair on Saturday. Students could have their own booths, and every class made items in art or the library. 3rd through 6th graders made 3D ornaments and keychains, while kindergarten through 2nd grade students made homemade cards. Eagleville students are learning about plant and animal life cycles. This year, they are growing edible mushrooms. A parent expert came in to share about mushrooms and how they grow. Each classroom is growing into 2 types. Last week, many classrooms were able to harvest, cook, and try some of their mushrooms. 3rd through 6th grade students were also invited to participate in the Lego Robotics Club. The club meets after school once a week to solve challenges, build robots, and learn about coding. Eagleville read Marjorie Saves the Everglades for their One Book, One School event. Students learned about Marjorie Stoneman Douglas and how she worked to turn the Everglades into a national park. They talked with Ranger Kevin, an Everglades park ranger, and learned about the different species of animals and plants in the Everglades.
At Prairie View Elementary, students recently participated in their One School, One Poem program. This year, all students wrote, read, and celebrated poetry. Prairie View has been fundraising throughout this year to benefit the charity Emma Loves Dogs. Tammy Mertens, Emma's mom, came to tell Emma's story and tell students more about her charity, along with a visit from therapy dogs. Prairie View held its annual art show on Monday, April 11th. Mrs. Ingleking, the art teacher at Prairie View, worked tirelessly to prepare for this event. Each student had an art project displayed at the fair. The PTO took part in the fair and raffled off baskets of items donated from each classroom.
Rolling Hills congratulates their Kiwanis 6th grade Students of the Year, Colton Jarrett from Mr. Anderson's homeroom, Lilia Bush from Mrs. McFarland's homeroom, and Delia Welsh from Mrs. Falk's homeroom on their recognition for this honor. 3rd grade students participated in a lesson as part of their social studies unit on manufacturing and production with their own jelly bean bunny factory. Students quickly learned that their supply chain could not keep up with the great demand for their products.
On the evening of Friday, April 15th, the section choir performed the National Anthem at the Milwaukee Emeralds game. For over 70 students and families attended the game for the performance. The students did a beautiful job singing the anthem and representing Section Elementary. Section thanks its music teacher, Kathy Dowdy, for organizing this event. On the week of April 4th, the Section Student Council hosted a toy drive for the Children's Hospital. Students who donated toys could vote for staff members they wanted to be pied by putting their donation on the table with the corresponding staff member's picture on it. On Friday, April 8th, an all-school assembly was held for the pieing. Given that the students raised over 800 toys for Children's Hospital, all of the participating staff members took a pie to the face.
Fantastic, I love it.
Before we have the Eagleville students come up, maybe we could recognize the Wizard of Oz musical that was conducted this past weekend. Fantastic job, Kayla. How'd you get all that green makeup off in time for the meeting? I bet. Yeah, great job. And of course, Vito, your son, was in the pit, and Erica, one of your daughters, was in the pit, so they sounded wonderful. It's my understanding that we had record crowds at the musical. I went Saturday night. I know, Art, you were there, and Cherry, I think I saw you there Saturday night as well, and a number of you, the rest of us went as well. Just a fantastic show. Great production. 125 students were involved in that production, so that is amazing when you think about it, and all the coordination and the talent. Well done, really well done. So Colleen Hoyne, principal at Eagleville, is here tonight, and so Colleen is going to introduce some of our Eagleville students who were recognized for their recycling efforts. As you know, Eagleville Elementary is a charter school, and they have a couple of different focus. One is Spanish, but another one is the environment. And so, Colleen, do you want to introduce the Eagleville students and staff?
Good evening. I think I know most of you now, or introduced myself to most of you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Colleen Hoyne. I am the principal at Eagleville and the 4K coordinator for the district. I am really excited to be here tonight with some of our students and John Steib, our 5th and 6th grade teacher at Eagleville. The students are going to share a national recognition that they received. So they took 10th place in a recycling competition out of the whole nation. So they're going to share about that, as well as some of the other environmental endeavors and environmental focus that we have at Eagleville. So I have with me tonight Waylon Woda, Jeffrey Krause, and Veda Fonku, who are all 6th graders at Eagleville in Mr. Steib's class.
Hello, I'm Waylon Woda. I'm a 6th grader at Eagleville, and the Recycle Rally is where we go around every single classroom and collect the recycling. At the end of the week, we weigh the recycling to see how much we've kept out of the landfill, and Miss Elzer enters the recycling totals into the Recycle Rally website by PepsiCo. We ended up taking 10th place for our recycling efforts. We continue to make our recycling efforts better throughout the year by adding more recycling bins, and it shows a small school can make a difference.
So you can check out this website. It has the top 10 places from around the country. You can see a lot of the places are high schoolers that they competed against, and then it has the whole little blurb for Eagleville on it.
Okay, I'm Veda, and besides collecting recycling every day and everyday recycling needs, we had a recycling competition between the classrooms to see which class collected the most recycling every single day for the whole week. We had an assembly in the fall that taught us and showed us what happens to recycled items when they go to a landfill and what happens when you recycle them. We also do a lot of other great things for the environment beside recycling. Here are a few examples. We have a butterfly garden, and in the beginning of the year, we did some research about what plants we needed to add and what flowers would attract the most animals and insects. Before winter, all the classrooms planted flowers that they decided would work best and help attract things. Some other gardening things we do is the vegetable garden, which this year is going to be a sensory garden, and we planted tulips by the road. Later this spring, we will have we will be planting sunflowers and have a seed swap.
I'm Jeffrey. And after every lunch, everyone puts their compost, i.e. fruits and vegetables, in napkins in a bin. Every month, the class is assigned to put the food in a bin outside by our playground. The class will have a chart in their classroom assigning certain students to take out the compost. By the end of the year, every student gets to do the compost at least once. Once every Friday, the assigned students do something called the Big Mix. The Big Mix is when we dump the week's compost into one of our 3 compost bins. We then put leaves on top of the pile, and we want it to biodegrade and turn into nutritiously rich soil, which can be used in our butterfly garden or sensory garden. Did you know that between recycling and composting, we have saved over 3,100 pounds from the landfill?
So we have a school woods right next to our school, and we do fun activities in it, including a color run, walkathon, snowshoeing, community building games, and working in different subject areas like reading or writing. We also have gone through the woods to remove invasive species, including Dame's rocket that we didn't want in there, and we've also removed buckthorn. And in library and technology class, we utilized the design process to build fairy houses that will withstand the elements.
We also have a creek. Our creek at our school is one more way that our school is eco-friendly. The creek is one way we show the kids at our school our environment around us. One way we do this is by exploring the creek. This process can go 2 different ways. The first way that we go exploring the creek is we look for all the animals that live in the creek. That gives us the knowledge on where the certain animals live and how they could possibly live. The time also gives us free time to roam around the creek. The second way we explore the creek is we mostly look at the water to see if the creek is polluted. Then we figure out ways how we can help our creek if it is polluted. Thankfully, our creek has not been polluted at all so far. We mostly use this structure of events to go on more activities, such as Parent Creek Day.
So the pictures are right up on the board. There are 4 of them. The first one is the 4th grade class describing saying the rules of Parent Creek Day. The second one is Mrs. Boyd's class, 1st and 2nd grade. They are planting plants to attract butterflies. The third is Mr. Stives' class, composting and doing the Big Mix. And the 4th one is Mr. Stives' class, building fairy houses.
We also include the environment in our reading and writing. We have read-alouds that have an environment focus like the wild robot. Also, in writing, we have topics about the environment. Should we use renewable energy? Should we keep exotic pets? Or even should we have zoos? We also debated if plastic is good in our argument and advocacy reading and writing units.
Our One Book, One School is Marjorie Saves the Everglades. We did activities about the Everglades, like posters about animals that live there. We also talked to Ranger Kevin, an Everglades National Park Ranger, and learned that Marjorie was an activist for what she believed. We also had a celebration about it that included going outside and drawing nature, an obstacle course where we had to dodge a fake alligator. We also had a drawing station where we picked out an animal to color and put on the wall. Do you have any questions?
Great job.
I don't have any questions, but thank you so much for coming and sharing that with us. It sounds wonderful. Well, if you'd like to come and pick a buckthorn at my house, I'd be happy to allow you, or anybody.
And then we have Luke Spielman to finish up our student portion of the events tonight. So Luke has some students to introduce as well. Luke's the principal at Parkview Middle School.
While the students are coming up, I just want to say thank you on behalf of the 3 young ladies who started the evening, Layla, Katie, and Bethany. They were recognized earlier in the year for the American Choral Directors Association Midwest Regional Middle Level Honors Choir. And what that means is they competed against students from across the 10 Midwest states for the opportunity to join a choir and perform at Millennium Park in Chicago in February. So under the direction not the choir wasn't under the direction of Lori, but under their direction at school under Lori. So congratulations to those 3 young ladies, and thanks again for letting them perform. Tonight, I also have the honor of presenting 2 young ladies here, Stella and Leah, who are members of our Little Mermaid cast. Little Mermaid is performing at the high school PAC here in a week and a half, so I'm going to turn it over to the girls.
Hi, I'm Stella.
Hi, I'm Leah, and we are both in the Little Mermaid musical cast.
Audition started in the beginning of January, and callbacks were 2 weeks later because of how hard the decision was.
We had no clue who we were going to be, but when the cast list was posted at the end of January, we were so excited.
I got the part of Ariel.
And I got the fun part of Ariel's best friend, Flounder.
We started practices in the band room with Mr. Uhazi, and towards the end of March, we were in the cafeteria blocking out the show.
We choreographed many dances with Miss Kelly, and she found her hidden talent of making up dance moves.
Ariel dreams of being a part of the human world. And Flounder doesn't want her to.
And here is a part of the scene. Hey, Ariel, there you are.
Just look, Flounder, the sun, the sand. Isn't it the most beautiful place you've ever seen?
I don't know, Ariel. I'm not sure we ought to be up here.
Don't be such a guppy.
A guppy? I'm as brave as you are. I'm not afraid of anything.
What about sharks?
Where?
Oh, Flounder, you really are a guppy.
I am not.
Aw, you'll never guess what I found. Look, have you ever seen anything so wonderful in your entire life?
Wow, cool. What is it?
I don't know, but I bet Scuttle will. Come on, I'll race you. It's not just about the lines and the music. The play is about learning life skills and gaining new friends. We are so thankful for being able to have the musical experience.
Tickets are on sale now, and the shows are May 6th, 7th, and 8th. Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you all at the show.
Thank you, ladies.
I'd also be remiss if I didn't recognize Hallie Kelly, our director, and Susan Ray Guth, our assistant director. So good job, ladies. We look forward to seeing the performance in a week and a half. And then I also have the privilege of presenting Raina Jelish. Come on up, Raina. So Raina was recognized for, or is being recognized tonight. Have a seat next to me. Raina is being recognized because she is one of the students from Parkview Middle School who was a finalist in our school-wide spelling bee. Raina then qualified, because of the school spelling bee, qualified for the district spelling bee. She was one of the finalists for the district spelling bee, which qualifies her for the district spelling bee, district meaning not just school district, but the region spelling bee at CISA. And she was one of the finalists there as well, which she qualified for the state competition. So Raina is one of the first students in Mukwonago Area School District in many, many, many years to make it to the state level competition. So congratulations to Raina.
So Raina, on behalf of the school board and the CISA 1 Regional Spelling Bee, we want to present you with this plaque and certificate and a medal. So congratulations, well done.
Congratulations.
Good job.
Before we jump into Tom's budget presentation, because people might leave before he does that, Karen, I just wanted to give you that opportunity to go ahead and finish up if you want to take another minute and a half, 2 minutes. Yes, you're welcome.
Karen, thank you for
your help.
being first aid also. Appreciate that.
Showing up. Sandy.
All right, so, where I left off, I guess, sorry. I just really want to, I feel that parents need to have the full disclosure and maybe even an opportunity to speak speak on the topic, or even to review the text or review the information. Maybe open up like a week for them to come and see what the material is, and so it gives them a chance to actually comment or even decide to opt out if that's what they want, or to be in it. So for their child, I want to open that opportunity. At least they get the disclosure. I think that's important for them and to build a relationship. So, and then I also want to also talk on the mitigation as well. If that ever were to return, I strongly just want you to make sure that you're basing your information on evidence from the science over the last 2 years. I know I have provided a ton of material, and it keeps coming out now, and I will continue to give more and more information if that's necessary, and I will continue to do that. And in any way, I will go up, over, and through to get the information to you. If you have any thoughts on that, that's fine. And I will be open to anything that you want to discuss. I believe what has passed has been proven, and science always shows the harmful effects of all of the things, the masks, and it really, truly, I really caution the vaccines as well. It's very apparent worldwide. There are substantial, almost an estimated 3.5 million deaths in the world right now to this vaccination. So I just want to really kind of like really let you know that if really we just need to return to the basics like flu. If you are sick, you keep your, or the kids are sick, you keep the kids home, let them recover, and when they're well, they can return. And that's just common sense. And that's all we need to return to, is just common sense. There needs to be no more mitigation. It's just common sense for everybody. I obviously, if I had chicken pox, I would not send myself to school or my kids. So that's just common sense. So I just want to return to that. I think that's what normalcy is, and that's what everybody needs. So I want to thank you for your time to speak, and sorry for the interruption, and thank you.
Thank you. All right, and then we will go to our budget presentation.
Okay, so I'll walk us through an update of our budget as we look ahead to the upcoming school year. So I'll provide some information about that. And I'm also going to make some suggestions for the school board as we move forward, because we're going to look ahead a little bit to the next biennial budget, and I'll have some suggestions for what I'd like suggest for the board to consider in terms of advocacy. So as we begin this year, I'm going to talk about 3 sources of funding that we get, and these 3 sources really define how our budget is built. Okay, the first one I'll talk about is our per member revenue limit. We receive $10,000 in funding per member. A member is a student who lives in our district boundaries, so if you look on the map in the corner there, any student that lives in those boundaries and attends a public school is a member of our district. So this, we receive $10,000 in funding per member, which totals $48 million as we look ahead, and that is 82% of our district's revenue. Far and away, this is the most important funding source. So we're gonna come back to this, and this will be the theme of tonight's discussion here, in addition to the budget. The second major piece of revenue that we receive is open enrollment revenue. So we have a number of students, just over 600, that are members of other districts but attend our schools. We receive just over $8,200 per an open enroll student. That totals $5 million, or 9% of our total revenue. And then finally, the last major revenue I'm going to highlight here is our per pupil categorical aid. We receive $742 of per pupil categorical aid, which totals $3.5 million and is 6% of our budget. Those 3 represent 97% of our budget. So that's how we build the budget. It's how much money do we have. We can't do things if we don't have the revenue to support it. So all other revenues represent 3% of our total funding. So I'm going to focus on the first one here, per member revenue limit. So how we receive this money, we take a 3-year average. So the third Friday of September, we take a count of our students, of our members. We take a 3-year average, and then we multiply it by our amount. So simple math, just looking back to last year, our 3-year average was 4,677 members. We got 10,000 per each of those members, which totaled for $46.7 million. that $10,000 number is unique. Every district has a different number, so ours is 10,000. I'm going to draw your awareness to how we got to that number and where it is now. So going back to the 93-94 school year, that was the first year that state government instituted a restriction on how much tax levy authority a school board had. So prior to 93-94, a school board could levy any amount of tax needed. So if there was a deficit in the budget, you simply increase your tax levy to close that deficit, and you could always make your budget what you needed it to be. There was no restrictions. Starting in 93-94, that biennial budget called for a restriction on a school board's tax levying authority. School boards were given 3 years lead time to figure out how much money they might need to support their operations. So there was a lot of leeway and latitude as to what a school board could levy. You can see on the screen here, going to this particular school year, we were at the very bottom of the county and statewide as well. The least state law does call for a minimum amount of tax levying, which is in this particular year $5,300. So we were just $20 north of the minimum. Fast forward to the current school year, and we are still lowest in the county, but we are at $10,000 per member. How we got from $5,320 to $10,000, you can see on this graph here. Each state biennial budget is a two-year budget written by our assembly people, our senators, and our governor, and they work together to build a biennial budget. And in that budget is where they will call for increases on the per member revenue limit. So that is really the primary way that school funding is going to be increased, okay? So if those adjustments there from year to year, you could see that after the very first year in 93-94, we started at $5,320. The following year, we were given an extra $190. And throughout the 90s and the early 2000s, we were in the range of $100 or $200, almost $275. And then that period of time through 2007, 2008, there was an inflationary index that ultimately determined how much per member revenue limits were adjusted upwards, okay? You can see there was a huge drop in the 11-12 school year. That was when Act 10 occurred. So all school districts took a 5.5% decrease to their revenue limit amount. And statewide, the average was a $529 decrease. And you can see then thereafter, the per member revenue limit adjustments have been much smaller, okay? And 6 of those years on the right-hand side, this is the same graph, just highlighting the last, most recent 10 years. 6 of these years have $0 increases. So that makes it tough when you are an employer of 700 employees trying to educate 5,000 kiddos. So I draw your attention to the far right-hand side. We had a $0 increase this year, and we have a $0 increase next year. So this is our per member revenue limit. We have, as I said earlier, there is a minimum amount that you have to levy for. You couldn't levy less this particular school year under $10,000. That's the least amount you have to levy. So throughout this duration of time, we have been at the bottom, so tied for last. But I draw your attention again to the far right-hand side where we were at $10,000 in funding last year, we are this year, and we'll stay there next year. Our total revenue picture for the last 7 years now, and including this year and looking ahead 1 year to next year, you'll see the far 3 bars on the right-hand side. We are at $57 million. That's ultimately our operating budget. That's what we use to pay our salaries, to pay for the buses, to pay for the lights on throughout our buildings, our schools. So we are flat at $57 million in change, okay? That is tough when we have the inflationary pressures that we currently have. So I'm going to highlight a couple of those that are going to be tough for us. So the first one is salary. Each year we agree with our 700 employees to compensation increases. Compensation increases and salary increases are defined, were redefined there when Act 10 was passed, and a teachers union can only bargain up to CPI on base wages and cannot bargain for more. CPI is the Consumer Price Index. It's basically an inflationary metric that's going to measure what the cost of living increases are in Wisconsin. So that number right now for teachers' unions that form on July 1st, which most all do, is 4.7%. In the past, they've been in the 1s or the 2s, and now we're almost at 5, so it's a big number. We'd like to provide a CPI increase, at least our recent history as a school board is, we'd like to provide at least a CPI increase so that you can hold serve as prices around you in your personal life go up. We'd like to make sure that we do our best to keep our people pacing with inflation. If we were to provide a CPI increase this year, that would total $1.6 million of additional salary. For benefits, I'll move to health insurance now. We are currently working with Anthem. This is our first year when we began working with Anthem. We asked for a rate guarantee not to exceed in year number 2. So as we are approaching year number 2, that rate is not to exceed 9.9%. Now without that rate cap increase there, we would be facing a 35% increase. Health insurance it's tough. The inflation in that is unlike really any other part of the economy. So in Milwaukee, our market has the 3rd highest medical prices in the United States. Green Bay is 4th. Why? I have no idea, but it's just a fact of the matter. If we face a 9.9% health increase, and we'll talk about this more in closed session tonight, but that would be another $600,000 increase, and just those 2 line items there, salary and benefits, would create a $2.2 million increase on the budget. This graph here shows you a before and after graph of what our revenues and expenses are before salary and benefit changes and after salary and benefit changes. So before the changes, before salary and benefit, health insurance increases take place, we have a wiggle room, a surplus of $994,000, so just about $1 million. With those 2 line item increases, we are at a deficit of $750,000. So, when there is no increase on the per member revenue limit, there are no other increases, it's hard, especially when you couple that with the inflation that we have right now. It's a bad combination, it's a bad mix. So I do want to talk about ESSER funding, federal funding, because we do have that as a source of revenue. We could use these federal funds to fill this deficit, but I would say if you do that, be cautious, because once those funds are exhausted, when you use one-time funds to pay for ongoing expenses, once those funds are gone and the expenses remain, you have a fiscal cliff. When we communicated with our community and we took feedback from all stakeholders, our teachers, our employees, our parents, our community members, when we sought their feedback on how should we use these funds, we focused in on academic recovery, mental health, and select one-time expenditures. Those are the intent of the funds there. So that's how we are going to use them to help our kids move forward and recover academically and help them with other needs. So I would say that federal funds could be used. That might not be the best idea. So our budget summary here, very quickly, is that our revenues are not increasing. We will stay put at $10,000 per member under revenue limit laws, and we will stay flat at per pupil categorical aids of $742. Expenditures are going up. In addition to salary and benefits, we have utility costs, we have transportation costs, which we'll be talking about later. It's important that we retain our bus drivers and keep our buses safe, and that takes money to repair them when needed, and those parts are moving upwards. There are other increases, utilities, gas. As we proceed from here, I know on May 9th we have a special board meeting to review and identify what our game plan will be for the 22-23 school year as far as our health insurance is concerned. And I'll give you that information in closed session tonight. That will be the first domino that moves. After we do that, we'll move on to transportation rates and salary. We hope to settle salaries by the middle of the summer. I think it's important that we at least consider meeting CPI or exceeding it. Now that's going to be tough, but we should at least consider that and bargain in good faith. But that obviously is going to be a challenge with no new revenue and inflationary pressure. So with the budget deficit that we have, if we decide to build a budget with the deficit, I do want to state that in the last 2 fiscal years, we have set aside $3 million. So if we have a one-time year where things aren't good, we'll be great. We position ourselves to handle this, so we'll be good. But what we need to then focus on is to advocate for what does the next biennial budget look like. I believe now is the time to start putting our message out there in the Mukwonago Area School District as to what we are looking for. So long-term solutions, I'm saying that advocacy is needed so that as the next state biennial budget comes out, we should talk to our legislators in the Assembly and the Senate about considering the increase to the per member revenue limit and moving us up from 10,000. We're tied for last. A little help would be nice. Alternatively, they could increase the per pupil categorical aid amounts upwards from $742. Okay, I'll give more details about how those are funded, but ultimately the $10,000 is funded in part by local taxpayers and by state government. The per pupil categorical aid amount of $742 is solely funded by the state. So I'll share more details later, but we really need one of those two numbers to move. I haven't talked about special education here in this information, but we get reimbursed for special education costs 1 year later. So for all of our teachers and our special ed transportation routes, we spend the money in the current year, and then we're reimbursed 1 year later for a percentage of those. And currently, we receive 28% of those costs back 1 year later. For all states in Wisconsin, or for all states in the country that are reimbursed under the similar Wisconsin method, 28% is the lowest amount in the country. So when you have to invest more into special education, but the pot of money is fixed, you're taking it from one group of students to make sure another has what they need, and that's tough, but that's the reality. I think it's important that we also talk about advocating for future increases in school funding and tying it to inflation as it once was in the 90s and the 2000s. Right now we have total uncertainty in our funding. We don't know what to anticipate. It's hard to build a budget with so many employees and students dependent on it when you don't know how much money you'll have. I know in the recent biennial budget, we didn't know what that was until after the school year started. The analogy I'll use, it's like launching a plane for a flight and not knowing how much gas you have until you're already in the air. I hope that when we move forward that we can settle this budget, the biennial budget at the state level before July 1st so we can make decisions accordingly. So it'd be nice if we could tie future increases to something that's known. Inflation seems to be a common idea there that's been used in the past. As I said earlier, in the 90s and the 2000s, we did have increases to funding tied to inflation, and had that stayed in place through the 21-22 school year, never been removed, we'd have an additional $343 per pupil right now. So the removing of that really, we started to reduce our investments in students. So I shared a letter with all of you that you have. It's a budget surplus letter signing. This is produced by a group called Act Now to Invest. It's a coalition of businesses in Wisconsin and others. I just share this with you as food for thought. I think they have some good ideas. If there was, the state budget currently has a $5.5 billion surplus. It's never been better at the state level. If a $343 per student increase was applied to any of those methods of funding and the special education reimbursement moved from 28% to 50%, the total cost for statewide support of 800,000 students would be less than $700 million. And when you look at the surplus of $5.5 billion, could they have funded? Yeah. It just needs to be a priority. Okay? So in the short term, what I need from you is I need direction on how to continue building next year's budget. So I gave you an update as to where we are. Now we move forward. Our timeline is I gave you a budget update here. In May, we will finalize our health insurance situation. Hopefully we can move to then finalize our transportation rate increase with Dousman and begin salary increase, develop a strategy there. Based on any feedback you give me, I'll present another budget update like I'm doing here. In June, we'll continue our salary increase strategy, and I'll present another budget update. In July is when I'll present the budget that I'm hoping you will take action and say, Tom, that is the budget we will move forward with. You adopt it, and then I take it to the annual meeting in August and present it to our electors at that meeting. So between now and August, we have 3 board meetings to refine this. So that's the work, my task, and I need your help in doing that, okay? I have 2 more slides, and I didn't know where to fit them in, but I do want to fit them in here. So this is statewide funding on that per member revenue limit. Again, for us, this defines 82% of our dollars. And somewhere between Erica and Sherry, there's a small red bar. Erica, do you see that red bar? That's us. We're tied with a number of districts for last in funding. You can see some of the other districts off to the far right-hand side of this that are getting in excess of 11, 12,000, some districts over 18,000 in funding per student, okay? To help just draw an idea around this, I'm going to compare us to one of our neighbors, New Berlin. It's a great school district over there. I'm not saying anything bad, but I'm just stating some facts here. Looking ahead to next year, if we grow by 25 students from last year into this year, and our population study we had says we can anticipate that, our 3-year average will move up to 4,682 kids. When we multiply that by our per member revenue limit of $10,000, we have a $46.8 million budget, and that's 82% of all of our money there. Most important element of our budget. New Berlin, on the other hand, has a per member revenue limit of $11,659. Their 3-year average, if they hold, serve, and don't grow or don't decline, their 3-year average will be 4,369 students, and that will give them $50.9 million in revenue. So we have 313 more students and $4 million less. That's what the revenue limit laws do. So one thing I'd say that we should consider advocating for, I'm going to back up here, is that if state government is unwilling to provide some type of increase to all school districts, I ask that they move those at the bottom up so they could increase and say the minimum per member revenue limit of $10,000 will move to $10,200 or $10,400 the year after. And that would help us catch up to the others, because right now there is a gap in funding. It'd be nice if we could close that gap in some way, shape, or form. So that's my presentation. Do you guys have any questions I can answer?
So the letter you gave to everyone, Mr. Cardhauser, is this something that you'd like us to pursue? Is that what you're saying?
That is up to you. If you want to do that collectively as a board, you can do that. If you want to sign that individually, you can do that. It spells out some of the same information I gave here, just a little bit greater detail. So if you'd like to do that, I can share the links with you, and then you can go do it.
As a board?
Are you recommending that?
Well, we all agree on it.
Well, we could,
I guess
so there is no rush on this. You know, they are not going back into session until November, and they won't be discussing a budget until probably after Christmas next year, January of 2023. But if you want to have a board resolution and sign the letter as a group, then we can put it on as an action item for May.
I think we should talk about it, at least in the committee.
Yeah, we can bring it to finance and discuss it there. If anybody hasn't, does anybody else have any questions for Tom?
The special education, you said that we were at 28%.
Yep.
The lowest. What is that compared to? Is the next highest like 29%, or are we talking like a big difference?
I don't know. The information, that letter states that we are the lowest reimbursement rate on a statewide basis. I don't know what other states are at. I'll look into that and let you know. I don't know the answer to that, Carolyn.
We can bring that to finance and facilities in May as well.
Any other questions for Tom? Okay, then we are going to move into our committee reports, and we will start with Student Learning Committee.
In our committee this month, we had a very well prepared and informative update on our 4K, and I felt that many of our questions were answered and that we are moving in the right direction with our 4K program. We also looked at the 7 through 12 curriculum documents for approval. We chose for the social studies for 7-12, and we chose to wait another month and have some more time to review those. For this summer, it was necessary for us to make a decision on the health book because the online portion of our health book was no longer available, and so we looked into that, and the motion we sent to the full board to have that approved tonight. Our Neola policies, we are waiting to review until next month, but Stephanie, if you could please address when we do a new curriculum and there is a new adjustment, just so that I get it right. If a book is proposed, it is open for public viewing so that so anyone can come and look and see what's in that book and before we make any approval on that book. So that what you had suggested is already in place in our district.
It is. We did talk about that in Student Learning Committee. The online health book, and this is up for an action item, so I'll talk about it then, but it is an exception to the rule because we are not up for curriculum adoption. We're using the exact same curriculum we've always used, but the online version is no longer available. And so I had brought to the committee in March and then again in April, taking a look at that. Cherry, you had also missed the SEL curriculum update.
I did miss it. So Christine presented us with an update on the SEL curriculum process to date and to present, and answered questions for the committee on the curriculum documents and recommended resources, and we're still proceeding with that.
Are we having problems with the links to the material in the SEL packet? Are you aware?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Maybe we need to look at that later because I was able to access it also. So let's make sure we're all going to the same place for that information. Because I want to make sure that you guys are able to all access what you need.
What was loaded up is a PDF doc, so I would have to share a Google Doc instead of the PDF version that was uploaded.
Okay.
So I can do that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Christine, Cherry, or Stephanie? Okay, then we will move on to our Personnel Committee update.
I can give that update.
Thank you.
So there are a couple of action items that we'll discuss later, but we did discuss the board vacancy process, which we completed last week. And then Stephen had shared some questions that we're going to be using for our exit interviews.
Okay, and then Finance and Facility Committee update.
We discussed before and after care, and there's an action item for the full board tonight for that. We discussed some additional needs for space at Eagleville, which is again another topic of conversation for tonight. Discussed eliminating transportation route and decided that we would remove one additional route. And then we also discussed transportation rates, which is another topic we'll probably discuss in closed session tonight, I believe. Pam gave us a update on the food service, a report on that, and Tom reviewed additional budget items similar to what we did tonight.
Any comments or questions on any of those? Okay, then we will go ahead and we will move into our action items, and we are going to start with our appointments, resignations, and retirements.
So I'll take care of that. So for appointments, we have Caitlin Williams, second grade teacher at Section Elementary. Anna Malloy Roberson, music teacher at Rolling Hills Elementary. Olivia Crow, art teacher at Rolling Hills, and Olivia has started already. Leah Patek, social studies teacher at Mukwonago High School. Aaron Lawler, physical education teacher at Mukwonago High School. Ashley Hafeman, part-time German teacher at Parkview and Mukwonago High School. Eric Haas, special education teacher at Parkview. Ashley Short, fifth grade teacher at Prairie View Elementary. And we have some resignations. Carolyn Atwell, general music teacher at Rolling Hills. Angela Barrios, kindergarten teacher at Eagleville. Aaron Fox, interventionist at Mukwonago High School. Sabine Peterson, science teacher at Mukwonago High School. Kelly Arntz, Parkview Middle School STEM teacher. And then finally, we have one retirement, Ann Murphy, who's a Spanish teacher at Parkview.
I would entertain a motion to approve all of these.
I make said motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions, discussion?
So for some of the resignations, I can provide more information in executive session. There are some very good people leaving us for some very good reasons and easily understandable. They will be missed, but I do want to make sure that we recognize Ann Murphy, who was a longtime Spanish teacher in the district at Mukwonago High School, and then the last several years at Parkview Middle School. Fantastic Spanish teacher, and she definitely will be missed. So congratulations to her on her retirement.
All right, congratulations to you. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Designate official newspaper and bank depositories.
Yeah, so each year we have to designate an official newspaper of the district, and we need to designate an official bank depository here. So we have historically used the Waukesha Freeman. Prior to that, we used the Chief, but they are no longer. So we moved ourselves to the Freeman. We publish our district budget and notices in there when we announce our annual meeting. By law, we have to notify people. So we need an official newspaper to do that. And then we need an official bank depository. I am recommending that we continue to work with Citizens Bank and the local government investment pool, known as LGIP. We put the majority of our bank deposits at Citizens Bank. We've been with them for probably as long as this district's been around, for almost 100 years. And then the LGIP, Fund 46 is a fund that we have to have segregated and separate. The LGIP is what a lot of local government units like the Village of Mukwonago or the Town of Mukwonago might use. Is a very, very, very safe investment. Is virtually risk-free. So we use LGIP for a couple of our deposits, and then Citizens Bank has an agreement with us to exceed what LGIP provides. So we keep that safe investment but get a better rate of return. So we need two separate motions to accept the Waukesha Freeman as our official newspaper and LGIP and Citizens Bank as our bank depositories.
I'll make the motion. The two separate motions. The first one being Waukesha Freeman, correct?
Correct.
I will second that. Any questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are you making the second motion?
Second motion for the Citizens Bank ZF.
LGIP.
Q.
And LGIP.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'd like to make that motion.
I will second that one as well. Any questions or discussion? Great, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next, we have our school board meeting schedule for the 22-23.
So per board policy, one of the other things that we do at this meeting is designate our school board meetings for the year. And so the board must identify the dates of our full board meetings. And typically we do the fourth Monday of each month. There are a couple of exceptions for the upcoming year, and when this is not unusual. In December and March, we are going to be on the third Monday because of Christmas and spring break. Then also in January, because of the Christmas or winter break, we actually will be on the fifth Monday. But the schedule is in board docs for you. It includes all the committee meetings as well. You approve it at this meeting, and then we all understand, as long as we properly notice it, you can make changes as the year progresses.
I'd like to make a motion we approve this schedule.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or concerns? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. School board delegates to CISA 1 Board of Controls and the WASB Convention.
So one of the more enjoyable nights for some of you and less enjoyable for others. So we do have to designate our delegate to the CISA 1 Annual Convention, which takes place on Tuesday, May 17th. And so CISA 1 has over 50 districts, and each of them send a delegate to this meeting, and then those delegates decide who will serve on the CISA 1 Board of Control for the year. So it's sort of like the CISA 1 School Board. And so you go and vote for, and I'm sorry, I don't even know how many Board of Control members there are for CISA 1, but that's the process for that night. And then there's about 12 meetings, sometimes a little more, for those various different Board of Control members. So
I'd like to nominate Dale.
I was just going to ask, wait,
Just
who was
gonna
it last year?
Me.
It was you. Did you go?
typically nominate and
Oh.
send a new board member, so sorry, guys.
I'd like to second that.
Oh, we have a motion and a second for Dale Porter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, this is new board member territory. Motion carries. We will move on to the WASB convention.
There's another one here. And so then we also identify our board rep that attends the WASB Delegate Assembly. So the Wisconsin Association of School Board State Convention is January 18th through the 20th at the Wisconsin Center in Milwaukee. The Delegate Assembly is held on Wednesday, January 18. And we need a school board member to attend that assembly as well.
I nominate Carolyn Simon.
Second.
Do you accept the nomination? Maybe I should ask. If it turns out that you guys can't go, we can always deal with that later. But we have a motion and a second on the table.
Aye.
Okay. Oh. All those in favor? Sorry, guys. Aye.
I'm sorry, who made that second there?
I did.
Oh, Craig.
Craig.
We'd like a full report after those association meetings, please.
Usually.
Good job.
Actually,
Steve.
you know you're allowed
Steve,
to go
good job.
with, and then you can get the full report. All right, so we are going to move on to the online health book.
Okay, so I originally brought to Student Learning Committee in March that the textbook that we use for online health, and we have 60 kids enrolled in online health this summer, it was no longer available to us, leaving us in a little bit of a predicament. We had adopted that book quite a while ago, and the company let us know that they had shut down that version. So I brought in March a copy of the book, went over with the Student Learning Committee the changes that Glencoe, the company, had informed us were made in the new version of the textbook. We are ordering the non-sexuality version. So I do want to emphasize we have not changed our curriculum with this. We literally just need an online textbook to support the curriculum that we have. There were minimal changes that the company had reported that they made between these, and so I am requesting that we do 64 online, in case we get a few more students, online copies of the text, and that then for the entire student population, when we go through our human growth and development update, which will start this summer, that we make a decision about a textbook at that point that includes the sexuality version too. So total of $1,685.97.
I make a motion that we purchase that.
And I will second that. Are there any questions?
I got a question.
Vito.
I noticed
Use your microphone, please.
I noticed the price was a fraction of what we thought it was.
Oh yeah, thanks. I did explain that at the last meeting. We decided to not do the book. They're going to let us just do the online version, and that reduced the cost immensely.
Yeah, it was like $3,000 or something.
Yep.
Right. Nice.
And Maureen, as she always does magic with the companies too when she talks to them, so they reduced it even more. And I had told the committee in March that if we then would adopt, after we do the new curriculum, if we adopt this, that they also said they would work with us on putting this into the price at the time that we bought all the books.
So is this just for use just for one summer?
Summer school online. Yep.
Only one.
We did only 1 year purchase in case we go another direction. If we decide to stick with this book once we do the curriculum process, then they said that they would take that amount and forward it for us.
Thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, so I have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We have the CISA 1 contract for 22-23.
So each year in April, we renew our CISA contract. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with the CISA 1, We use them for shared staffing services and also a lot of staff development activities, and you can read about those in the memo. Next year, and this is typically a fluid contract because we do add some things as we go along and subtract. Next year, it's going to be approximately $46,000, and the vast majority of that is for a shared teacher of the blind and visually impaired.
I would like to make a motion we approve this.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any question or discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have Neola policy updates. The policies are in your board docs.
Yeah, one of the policies that we are looking to get change recommended by the Finance and Facilities Committee is a committee policy, 155. For many years, the policy called for 4 board members on the Finance and Facilities Committee, and the recommendation is that we reduce that to 3, and that puts it in line with our Personnel Committee and also our Student Learning Committee. And then the other changes were to human resources policies mainly that were recommended by Neola in our latest update in January. There were a lot of recommended changes. We didn't want all those policies at one time, so we divided it into 2 groups. They were reviewed at the Personnel Committee, and they are recommended for approval.
I would like to make a motion we approve these.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any questions on these policies or any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We will move into the before and after care for our daycare providers for the 22-23 and 23-24 school year.
Sure. Hello, everybody again. So per board policy, every 2 years, we are required to put out a call for proposals and accept proposals for our before and after care providers at all of our buildings. So over the course of the last several months, beginning in January, we put out a call for proposals and had a committee of, it was 10 members, including Cherry, Tom, and myself, a couple of administrators, staff members, and parents, and looked at the proposals that we received. We received 2 proposals, one from Kids Connection and one from the YMCA. Both of the proposals were to remain status quo, which would mean that Kids Connection would continue to provide services at Section, Rolling Hills, Eagleville, and Clarendon, and then the YMCA would continue to provide services at Big Bend and Prairie View. So we are looking for the committee, or for the board to approve both proposals and move forward with continuing status quo.
I will make that motion.
Second.
Any questions about?
I do.
any of this?
For the YMCA program, I'm familiar with that one because my girls were at Big Bend and they were really young. And sometimes there was only one teacher and they'd have 30 students. Do we have a policy on that? If there's over X amount of students, there has to be a second teacher?
They have to follow state law, so it's actually not even our policy. There's a ratio of students per teacher, and it depends on the number of students. I believe it's 18 to 1 for students that are 5 and above. And so they do follow those policies. I think sometimes there's less students than that, and they only have 1. And my conversation with them will just be 1 possible with staffing. It's still nice to have 2 staff members, even if you have less than that threshold. It's not always possible, but that will be the conversation. But they do have to follow state law with ratios of students to staff.
Okay.
I also have a comment. Having sat on the committee and listened to what the parents and the administrators and the people who are on those were some of the concerns that they all had, and so that is why it's noted here. But I also wanted to make it public knowledge that I do also agree that sometimes I don't necessarily feel that the coverage is what it should be.
Do we have any recourse in our contract built in if they're not able to offer the coverage that's necessary?
I think we would have to, we can ask them to increase that, but that is going to push costs up on the families. So we could certainly approach them with that. I would have to look to see what recourse we have there.
What are you guys saying, that they're not following the state law?
I don't know if they're not following it, but there's been times where I would pick my kids up. Again, this is 2 years ago, 3 years ago, because they haven't used it, but since then. But there would be one teacher, and it's the hard time is between going outside and coming back inside, where it's just kids are running everywhere and you don't know where your kid is, and maybe they went to the bathroom. I don't know where they are. I'm like, well, where's my kid? So, you know, and it's hard to shuffle. I'm not blaming them, but if, like, where is that very fine line? So if, you know, 19 kids are there, how do we make sure that there's 2 people there? And I know there's probably staffing shortages with them too, but, you know, I just want to make sure they're following.
The Department of Children and Families, they audit this. They do random pop-ins on this. They look for every finding. If they're, I know at one of our schools, which our buildings are our responsibility, but Kids Connection was cited because there was a sharp piece on a downspout. Well, that's not Kids Connection's fault. That's on us. I can't say we looked at that, you know, on that particular day, but they were cited for that. So there are random visits. It would be really bad if they exceeded state law and had more kids than they were supposed to. Like, that is, I dare say that it'd be bad.
And they do turn in all their citations as a part of their proposal. So, like, we got to see in the past 2 years, like, were there any things that they were, I think there was, like, a downspout in one, like, there was nothing, and then they have to provide explanations for the ones that were in there. So there was none that were cited for too many staff. So I don't think they have broken any laws. I think it's, like, the comment was, let's say there's 17 students and there's 1 adult, that's still a decent number of students, and if they're going from in to out, when possible. So that was the conversation at the committee.
I have another question, just it came up after all of this. Are they ever in the building with no one other than possibly custodial staff?
Between 3 o'clock or 3:30 and 6 p.m. They're out at 6 p.m. I mean, yeah, I'd say that there's probably a number of times where it's just the daycare provider and our custodial staff. I can't say that our principals are in the building until 6 o'clock.
And probably in the mornings as well, because they start at 6:30. So I would say that there's times when it's just custodial staff and
Just for awareness and awareness for the board, I just really think it's important. If there would be an emergency and there's one person, what would they do?
That's a good point.
End of comment.
Are they
Whose
outside?
liability it would be? It would be their liability or ours?
Well, I know that outside time after school, they did that right away, and then they would come in. So I know maybe, at least for that outside playtime, that would be done, hopefully whether there's still teachers here working or, you know, somebody, another adult overlapping in the building. I don't know if they go outside in the morning. We never used for morning care.
So we have a motion and a second for the proposal on the table for aftercare that the committee went with. Are there enough concerns that you?
No.
No,
Okay.
I'm good.
There's nothing,
Okay.
there's not, no.
We're going to continue on with the vote then if there's nothing else. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We're going to move to transportation route reduction.
Okay, so this isn't quite reducing an entire route, but this is going to eliminate some transportation for a number of students there. And Katrina and Larry, if you guys want to hop in, if we have any questions here, our folks from Dousman can help answer some questions here. But we have a hazardous transportation map in our district where we have identified historically places where we do not want students walking and crossing streets or crossing railroads, whatever it might be, on their path to school. So by state law, we have to provide transportation to all students in our district. The exceptions are if they live within 2 miles or less of their assigned school, then they are walkers, okay? School district can decide to transport everyone. Now that's going to be an increased cost and that deficit gets bigger. So that is a school board prerogative, but our history is that when students are eligible to walk, they walk. So the Fairwind subdivision is north of Mukwonago High School, right across the street there. Prior to the upgrades at Mukwonago High School, there was no crosswalk there. There is now a crosswalk at the south end of Fairwinds Boulevard. And that crosswalk, we asked our sheriff's office to do a study to report to us any hazardous transportation issues where they would say these students do need to get transportation because they deem it unsafe or hazardous. We didn't receive any feedback from the sheriff's office that would say this is a hazard. So that being said, we have a number of parents that live in surrounding neighborhoods next to Field Park here, just a little south of LO in the village area, where those students live within 2 miles of Clarendon, the middle school or the high school, and they walk. So some of those parents have asked, why does my student walk, but those Fairwind students do not? So I think in order to be consistent here, we need to take action and identify that that it is no longer a hazard to cross County Road NN, as it historically has been.
And you're only talking middle school and high school?
Only, yeah, the students that live in that neighborhood attend Section Elementary, and they would never be asked to walk up County Road EE.
Exactly.
So this is just going to affect middle school and high school students.
And the kids that park at St. John's and walk across, those kids too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion, we approve this change.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion?
So with this, I'll be quiet. Well, let me just say it right now. I'll notify these parents now, then after, if the vote passes here, so they know what to expect. I would anticipate there will be some upset parents then, so we'll see where it goes.
Will this start next fall?
This will start next fall then. Yeah, we won't do anything now.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We have the Eagleville Elementary Charter School Spaces Solutions.
There's the other route.
Oh, wait, is there a second route you need to talk about, Tom?
No, not at this time. There are some other routes that we are going to look at in May. I brought to the Finance Committee our ridership numbers. We're currently, we counted the number of students that rode the entire week coming back from Christmas break. We are counting students again this week to say, you know, what it looked like in January, what does it look like here in April. Once we take a look at that, if we identify some very low ridership routes, and there's two, there will be a decision for the board to potentially cut some routes or reduce some routes. So I will bring back ridership counts, and then we may take action to reduce a couple of routes.
Okay.
So again, students that are eligible for transportation, we can't just remove whatever we want. It would be within, you know, the letter of the law and what we can and can't do. All good?
Okay. So you came to finance to talk about some Eagleville space issues, which we did indeed see when we toured there earlier this year, and you have a proposal, at least an attempt to do something about that.
So we had,
Hi, Andy.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So we did come to the meeting last week with a proposal to look at possibly bringing a trailer classroom to the site. There was discussion on that. There was options of leasing a trailer or purchasing a trailer. Prices were given as to getting those trailers and then to install them, as well as running power to them and such. I did make the board aware that there is a shortage on trailer classrooms currently. There's a lot of other school districts using ESSER money as well to try and find these classrooms for temporary use. So we did talk other options. Erica had asked for us to bring what was in the Bray proposal for the facility study. So we did put that together, and that would be the slide 2 and 3 in the packet, as well as 4 and 5, so that you had a 4K to 4 version and a 4K to 5 version. That was assuming that 6th grade was going to the middle school in the future. Again, these are just proposals for the future. The price tags on those estimated right now, the 4K to 4 is $3.6 million, and the 4K to 5 is $4.1 million in increase. That's capital, adding elevator, bringing it up to ADA code and such. So obviously the cheaper of options would be to look at a trailer classroom, or also discussed at the meeting that evening was possibly just adding on some storage and possibly office space off of the gym. I did have some conceptual plans drawn up since the meeting, which was in the packet as well. There was 3 options in that. Option 2.1, which was just a roughly a 12-foot bump out and creating half of that space for storage, such as the cafeteria tables, some of the gym equipment, art equipment and stuff. And then 2 small offices, which Colleen can tell you they are very short on one-on-one spaces. If we go to do something like this, where we're putting offices there as well, we'll have to work on increasing HVAC capabilities. So that would derive a little bit. I took a $300 square foot price on this, and that's 577 square feet. So you're roughly looking at $170 to $200,000 for that type of add-on. There were 2 other options. One being that we would bring the full office down if we were really going to consider bringing this, because we do feel that we need a better line of sight to our front door from our office, which we do not have currently. So creating space for storage as well as bringing the office down. That roughly at a $300 per square foot would be $650,000. And then the third option was to just bring the main office down, which would be roughly $350,000. So a lot of different numbers being thrown around, but that was information that you had asked for in addition to what we had presented. Again, the capabilities are there for them to operate. They are operating currently. It's just tight. It's cumbersome. In this last year, they've created spaces. If you look at the bottom right of the picture where the stairwell is, they've created a little one-on-one space where the upstairs stairs is kind of cut out in the first floor. They also have put a one-on-one spot in that vestibule in that area. On the second floor of the library, they've put up a curtain to create another one-on-one spot. And then they're at times using Colleen's office for those, or the health room for those areas as well. So they are very limited on the space for their special needs or specials of classes.
So
Andy,
this-
go ahead.
Go on.
How old is the building, Andy?
Older than you and me. Go ahead.
The newer portion of the building, the gym side of the building, I believe was built in the 1960s. The other portion of the building was built in the 1930s. Sean may know the exact date right there, but 1960s.
I have plans from the 50s on the newer part.
The new part was built in the 1950s.
So this 2.3 option, right here, that was the 650,000?
No, that one is 350,000. The second one that had office space up by where is kindergarten now on the first floor, where the stairwell comes down, that was about 650,000 estimated.
So, yeah, very rough
These are
estimates
very
there.
rough numbers.
Yep.
Without getting, proper and full input and analysis from somebody like C.G. Schmidt. We're just using a flat amount per square foot of $300, which between $250 and $300 is where typically new construction costs per square foot land. So just caveat that that's a flat estimate by us at this time.
I mean, I think this needs to go to a committee.
Well, so I was just going to say, the Finance Committee moved this forward for discussion because it's a bit more, this came to committee. We did look at it and we wanted to hear other people's input because we have been discussing storage at Eagleville for years and it just keeps getting kicked down the road. So we either need to do something about it, even if it's a temporary Band-Aid, like a trailer classroom, or something a little bit more permanent. The hard part is the timing, that if we're looking at a facility plan, a long-range plan, and we have priorities to make, where does this fall in the mix of that? So do we step into this right now and give a fix, either temporary in either leasing or purchasing, or do we declare one of those priorities right now to be a renovation or an addition onto the school? And I'm not even sure that these proposals that they brought for additional storage address the special space for music, for art, for band orchestra.
Because it would be easy to move the office. I mean, those options probably would be the ones that they could look into closer.
But, yeah, no.
I would say the storage certainly helps that, because even in this model where just the main office comes down, I think
Right.
some of the specials issues, certainly not completely, but are helped by some of the additional storage. For those of you who haven't been to Eagleville, please come and visit. We love to give tours. But the gym space is shared for all of the specials. So music, art, PE, library, tech, we share specialists with Prairie View. So 1 day or 2.5 days a week they're at Eagleville. If there's not an abundance of storage, so like the music, like drums and guitars are like in the corner of the gym, and then they put the lunch tables up to block them during PE so they don't get blocked. So it's a safety on top of equipment.
So, and not to be a downer, didn't we talk about maybe closing Eagleville a while back?
No, we didn't.
Okay.
That
Yep.
was not,
Or
that
wasn't
hasn't
that,
been on the table since I've been on the board anyway.
Not 5, 6 years ago? I know, it's a great,
So-
it's a great school, it's a charter school, I'm just throwing, I mean, how, if it's long-term in our long-term plan, I get it.
Right, so
But
that's,
how do you, how many Band-Aids you wanna put on it before, right?
right. I mean, it's part of the discussion. Sherry?
Tonight, we talked about the deficit that we're coming up against. And I think May 6th, we're having a meeting that is going to discuss the facilities study and where this board wants to go with it. I'm not saying we should table it for 5 years, but I'm thinking that we need to go through those steps before we think about it at all. I mean, that's just my personal opinion, because then we get people up to speed, and that's the whole reason we're having that meeting. And if we move it to a top priority, or even if we move a temporary fix to a top priority, I think that meeting would be more appropriate than the discussion at this point.
I think the question would be, how bad is it needed?
Obviously, we're making it, like, I think we're making it work. And I think people are super flexible, which is and students learn to be flexible, and students learn in all different spaces, which I think can be looked at as a positive. But I definitely just, I think that we're not giving kids the privacy that they need in some of those situations, or we're creating privacy, and I just think we could do even better with some of these.
Part of the discussion at finance, however, was that these trailers are very hard to come by. We don't even know if we could find them. So it was a little bit more of a guidance, like Andy looking for permission to go out to bid to see if he can even get them. So I think that was the initial discussion that we wanted to bring here. Is that something we even want to pursue as an option? Do we?
Well, that was one of the questions, is how feasible is it even to get one? And is the lowest dollar amount, the 165 is for 3 years, is that a flat rate? Is that all in for including site prep and everything else, or is there more to it than that? I mean, that's not the.
So it was 135,000 for 3 years for the.
Per year, Andy?
For 3 years to lease it, but then, yeah, there was site prep as well as connecting electric and that, so that's why I upped the price to
So ballpark
165.
165 for
Yep.
3 years.
Correct.
That's a lease, and then for 3 years, they're gonna.
At that point, they're gonna come and get the trailer and take it away unless we up it to stay there
More
longer.
than anything else, that's just temporary space and a Band-Aid.
Correct.
And then how likely is it that you can get one? Have they given you any indication?
So when I made phone calls 3 weeks ago, and there was one available through a company. Obviously, there's more being produced, but again, it's supply and demand at this point. Would we have one available to have on site for school to start this year? I can't guarantee that.
Can they give you any predictions as to what they're being built and what the demand is right now, or?
Demand was high, and that, again, a lot of them are larger than 2 classrooms. There are multiple trailers put together to be like 6 and 8 classrooms. So to come by and find one this would be like putting 2 mobile homes together, 12 foot wide by 70 foot long to make the 2 classrooms.
Can we just get 2 mobile homes?
It's a possibility. It could be getting some job trailers. I've reached out to job trailer companies recently. I don't want to go too far into this until I have the board's direction to go and really hunt this down, so.
I guess my fall back, how bad is it needed? Is this do we need $200,000 worth of fix here?
And that's why you're the principal, so that's good.
I agree with Sherry. I think that we're right in the middle of this facility plan. We've got to put our priorities together. This is, regardless of what we do, is a big chunk of money, especially looking at a deficit.
So I would,
and
if
also
I could add,
looking at increased enrollment for.
if I'll add one thing here, as you mentioned the deficit there, everything I talked about tonight is our general operating fund, which is Fund 10. I don't want to go into all the details because I get that I create more confusion, or there's just confusion around this conversation. But Fund 10 is its own pot of money. It is, 90% of the entire conversation. But in that other 10% of the conversation are some funds, Fund 41 and Fund 46. Those are their own pots of money. There's $3 million in each of those. If you decided that, hey, this is a priority, our conversation about the budget deficit doesn't change. All that stuff is the same. We go to a separate pot of money and say, there's $3 million available. We're going to draw that down to whatever you choose. And that would be a related but somewhat separate conversation. That makes sense.
To be clear for everybody else, that's money, that's surplus money from previous years. That's just sitting there with no allocation.
We either proactively set that money aside at the beginning of the year because we know we're going to have parking lots that need to be updated or new roofs, you name it. At the end of the school year, which this board will do here come in June or July, we'll take a look back at 21-22 school year. I'll report, here's the status of the budget, and here's how it played out. If we have money left over, we can move it into one of those funds. And it's there for perhaps a purpose like this or any building purpose.
So in short, we have the money for this. We've been saving,
Yep,
we've been saving money for things
capital
just
expenditure.
like this.
Yeah, it comes down to your
If it's needed,
priority status that you place on it.
if it's needed that bad, I think we need to determine, is this needed that bad? Because we're not going to make a decision on a new school or going to 6 to 8 in the middle school, and it's not going to take effect anytime soon. If this is a priority, it's a problem right now. We have the money right now. We can at least give him some direction to go look seriously into this and see if it's even possible right now.
Sherry?
I would like to propose that we wait until we have our meeting on the 6th of May. It's before our board meeting next month. That this item is part of that meeting on the agenda because it's been brought as a situation that may need to be bumped up to 1. But at least we would have had the time then to go through the process of, because if we take the money that we have and use it, we don't have it anymore. And I'm not saying it's not the most important thing, but I'm just saying I don't think that bringing it tonight and say, okay, we're going to spend this tonight. Because are you still putting the outdoor classroom there? So we just approved something in addition to this for more space there, and I forget how much that was.
We have a budget of $80,000 for that.
So
of which they are paying
and that
for
was
some
something
of it.
we did, without looking at our priorities and without.
Can we heat it then?
Pardon me?
Heat it.
I don't think.
So I'm just saying that because it's 1 month and we have this meeting planned, so let's finish the process and.
I don't think we need to approve anything. If we give him some direction, I mean, really all he's looking for is direction. Can you look, if he looks into this?
No, he's looking for approval because he's not going to spend all of the time and energy to put in all of the work for us to be like, we changed our mind. Because we can give guidance all day long out of committee, but what he's looking for is permission to go ahead and do it. And I think the point that Tom made was that the budget discussion that we're having in May is not the same as this discussion, that these numbers.
Right. So I think what we would need tonight is, first and foremost, we're not recommending that we do the construction project. The project that's on the screen right now, for example, if you approve that tonight, that is going to impact the ability to do the other plans that were in the previous slides for Eagleville. So I don't think you want to approve anything of this nature tonight. However, I do think if we want to seriously consider the trailer idea, Andy would appreciate that go ahead. Yes, let's explore that more in detail, answer the questions that you might have had or that you did have tonight, such as the availability. and what are the additional costs. That, if you think that's a possibility, that we would be willing to spend $165,000 or so over the next 3 years for a trailer at Eagleville to alleviate the space constraint. Again, it's a temporary solution, but I would not recommend a permanent solution for Eagleville at this time, because like you mentioned, we're in the middle of a facility study. We have priorities at all 8 of our schools that we need to weigh against each other and determine a list of which is the greatest and which is the least. So, of course, Colleen is here, but I can tell you I have 7 other principals that tomorrow morning when we meet will be saying, well, why did Colleen get to?
I was gonna say Andrea Kaplan will be knocking on your door, there's no doubt about it.
And please know that the constraints at Eagleville are serious, and we should take you out there again. When we did have our tour, Colleen wasn't available to attend last November when that was, and I'm sure she'd love to show you the challenges that they have. But if I were the board, I would look at, give Andy the go-ahead on the trailer at this time, if you're interested.
And I would agree with that.
Talk to us about timeline, deadline. Like, it's here this month because you feel like, if you can get one, and if it could get in place by fall, you would need to know now.
Yeah, it really is to you because it was kind of brought to me from 2 different directions that they would really like to see this, and it is possible that even ESSER funding could cover some of this too, correct? We had that conversation or not?
That's correct. It could be, but again, we have our ESSER funding, we have priorities for spending, and based upon how that process plays out, we might have some ESSER funding left to spend on a trailer, sure.
But I think, yeah, the sooner we move, the sooner, more likely it would be that it would be there and usable by fall, that we could have it set up for other classrooms.
I mean, there's, yeah.
And in the 3-year time, we could put a tree in front and behind it and take off the wheels, and they'll never take it from us.
I know a guy at Trees on the Move.
Yeah, exactly. We can do it.
So what's the motion?
There is not yet a motion on the table. I would just like to point out that we have talked about the space issues at Eagleville for a number of years. So that's why I was like, bring it to the full board. It's time we either do something about this or we don't. Like, we can't just we've brought up the mobile trailer classroom thing multiple times over the last 7 years. We are not, like Vito, you said, we're not in a place, like, even if we decide to move forward on a bunch of things, they're not gonna happen in 3 years. So this would be a temporary Band-Aid, roughly $53,000 a year's worth to give those kids space. Classrooms and space for their specials, and it is a serious space issue.
Yeah.
Okay,
been there.
so the motion is to allow Andy to proceed forward with the mobile classroom.
And I will second that.
Okay.
Were you making that motion?
did, I
Okay,
did.
we have a first and a second. So to approve, to give him permission, if he can purchase.
If Andy has an opportunity tomorrow to
least.
get one, this gives him the opportunity to get one. Is that correct?
Does the motion need to be amended to include a dollar amount not to exceed or at this thing? Because if he comes back with a $300,000 proposal, we're gonna have a conversation.
Oh, he would be coming back in budget, I know that.
So
But we can make it official.
So the motion would be to proceed with the mobile classroom with not to exceed 170.
I'll second that.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second on the table. Any other questions or discussion?
170 for 3 years?
For 3 years.
The proposal as in.
And we will still discuss this on May 6th.
This is the lease option. There's 2 options in there. There was one for a lease and one to purchase outright. The one to purchase outright came in at about $275,000. If we're doing it for a Band-Aid and we're gonna make some decisions, it seems like the lease option, because for the life of me, I can't think of another reason why we'd have to pay to pick this up and move it and kind of do some other things. It's great to have. I like having trailers like anybody else, but
At deer camp.
So the lease option is what we're talking about.
Okay.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion carries 8-1.
If you would like to come and see,
Been there. It's worth seeing. It's tight.
Not enough. Otherwise, I was going to make an abstain. Okay. All right, and then our last action item tonight is superintendent search firms.
Sure, so as you're aware, the school board submitted a request for proposals for a number of superintendent search firms, and the personnel committee reviewed those proposals, and they have narrowed it down to 3 firms, the WASB, HYA, and BWP, and so they're recommending that we bring those 3 in for interviews, presentations, questions and answers, in about 45 minutes. And if you approve those 3, we'll schedule those next.
I would like to make a motion, we move forward with these 3.
I will second. Any questions or discussion?
Yep. Did you ask them what their normal presentation was?
45 minutes.
That's what they said it was?
Yep, so a 30-minute presentation and then 15 minutes for questions and answers.
Sweet.
Doable. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah, we have those dates already, don't we?
We don't, and
Oh, we don't.
so I was just going to talk about that next, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
let's move
okay.
into superintendent report.
Sorry.
So tonight's the 25th. I don't know if I can get one of those 3 firms scheduled for May 2nd. So that's next Monday when we have the Student Learning Committee. We do have May 9th. We agreed to have a special board meeting on May 9th. I'm confident we'll be able to get one of those firms in 2 weeks down the road. That gives them plenty of time. We're doing one at a time, correct? I believe that's what I heard from you guys.
Why don't we double up on one so we can?
I am fine with that. The rest of the board?
I don't agree, but
I write off my Mondays, so.
because,
Solid.
I mean, there's too much on it. I mean, it's so important.
I think
You don't think listening to 2 30-minute presentations and being able to compare them
No,
back to
the
back is
best.
doable?
It wasn't last time, but, you know.
Okay,
whatever.
okay. So
Right.
one, it sounds like one a time, one a week. Will you make an attempt to see if we can get somebody by May 2nd? See if
Sure.
anybody wants to work real hard to get ready in a week? Then we'll at least do the May 9th.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is one a night. So May 9th, I know we're good. How about May 16th? That's a Finance and Facilities Committee meeting.
Hey, Erica, did we vote on the 3 here?
The 3 that we were
Did
picking.
we approve? Yeah.
We didn't, we're still.
Oh, sorry.
That's
I was gonna say, we're
a
just
whole
still,
nother
okay, so we do have a motion and a second on the table. We'll talk about the dates in a second. Any other questions?
If we end up finding somebody not through one of these firms, we're not on the hook for anything, right? We only, it's like a pay to play, or how does that work?
I
Or
don't
the
know that we will
contract
be
set up?
searching individually outside of whoever we sign a contract with. That's what we would be hiring them to do, so we wouldn't
Okay.
be working outside of that contract.
So there's nobody within the current school district, principals, or anybody who's been groomed for this position that has an interest in it?
Well, they
for
could
that?
apply
They could-
through
But through one of
that
the
search
Okay,
firm.
that's all I was looking for.
Yeah,
Okay.
they will try to identify internal candidates as well as external candidates.
Okay, perfect.
But as for Wisconsin Association of School Boards, Hazard Young, Atia and Associates, and BWP and Associates, that's what we are voting on. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Now the presentation dates. So the 9th, the 16th.
The
And then the-
16th was good. Am I hearing that? Okay. And then the last one would be May 23, which is the full board meeting.
And then it would also be an action item.
It would be an
On
action
that
item on
same
that night
night.
as well.
So are you able, do you feel as though on that evening, you'd be able to compare the 3
I know.
and place a vote? That was kind of part of the discussion as to why we might want to double up on one.
I think we're a lot
Or do
better
a
off.
special board meeting
that's
on a Wednesday or whatever.
After
Like
the
we've
23rd.
done.
after this, well, no, or after the 16th, before the 23rd. So you'd have the 3 of the interviews done prior to the,
I'd rather do 2 in one day than do a special meeting to come in. It's only a half hour with 15 minutes of questions, that seems.
but it's in addition to a committee. So you have your hour plus your committee meeting that night. So it's not just those. I mean, an hour meeting's not a big deal,
But it's back to back with the committee.
2 hours.
Okay.
What I'm
Pretty good at that now.
And then it goes blah, 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 blah.
So let's do this. How many people would like to just do 2 in one night and stay longer?
Without
Versus-
a committee meeting?
There's gonna be a committee.
No, there's going to be a committee meeting. These are all
Yeah,
committee
right now.
dates. The 2nd is learning committee. It sounds like that's out. The 9th is personnel. So we're going to try to get somebody at personnel. 16th is finance. We're going to try to get the 2nd at finance. We need to get the 3rd in there. And if we don't want to do it on the 23rd during the full board meeting and still decide that night, then we need to either have a special meeting or double up one night.
I propose that if we cannot get one on Monday, the 2nd, they're all Mondays, on the 2nd during learning, that if we double up on the 9th, because the finance committee is always longer than the
Brutal.
personnel committee.
Brutal. No offense, Tom.
Yeah, I can't stand, I mean,
Yeah.
Nothing personal, but it just has more
I
things.
don't have.
No, I'll go, I
agree.
Okay, so doubling up on the 9th, just
If we
feedback.
can't get the 2nd.
If we can't get the
Correct. Who's game for that? Okay, then we will try to double up on the 9th, and then one on the 16th, if that's possible. If that's not possible, we'll get an updated email and make a decision.
I just
thereafter.
don't have
Yep,
to go
thank
to
you.
the committee meeting, so I don't care. You're the
Okay, and then Rolling Hills is the election site. No, back up. 22, 23 calendar you have on there?
So are we in the superintendent's report
Yes,
now? You're
sorry,
referring
Yeah,
to? Okay, so a couple of things with the superintendent's report. Hang on. Find my notes. So, the first thing actually was the committee meeting recording. So we had a request to record our committee meetings, and
It also came up during the interview process.
Right.
More than once, which I
Right.
thought was, you know.
so I'm looking for input. Now, I don't even know that we can find the personnel to do it, but I needed direction from you guys first. So are you interested in having our committee meetings live streamed?
I would say yes.
Okay, at first glance, I'd say yes. The more and more I think about it and talk about it, I need everyone to just think about how much discussion and going around and around and around in committee meeting comes out. There's so much discussion. My only concern is that with that being live streamed, any random topic or idea that gets put out there will, next thing we know, be on social media of, hey, did you hear they're doing this? When it's, I mean, we just do so much throwing around of ideas and asking questions. Are we ready
And
to
committees
potentially
is
have
not where
to?
we decide something as a board. It's
what she's
where
saying,
the committee
what she's saying is that it doesn't matter.
Okay,
2 to 1.
Yeah.
they
one,
vote
we,
on
but we do speak one person at a time at these tables, so, did you have something to say, Vito?
What she's saying is it's not the, gotcha, homie. She's not saying that that's what we have to worry about. She's saying what people are gonna say.
Right.
That's what we say something and somebody's gonna blow it out of proportion and it's gonna be an issue when it's not an issue, because it's just a random off-the-cuff comment that somebody
So-
makes, usually me.
Is that gonna be any different than somebody sitting here and doing the same thing?
Less likely. That's the difference.
Well, you're increasing fourfold, right? Like 4
Right,
meetings a month,
right.
where we are not necessarily having that same sort of dialogue at a full board meeting because we hashed it out at a committee meeting. So I do think it would be indeed different. Cherry?
I feel that we used to have 2 board meetings a month, and we did not have our committee meetings. And so then all of the facts and all of those hashings out were done at full board, and our meetings were hours and hours long. So we used to have committees, and then we went to the 2 full board meetings a month, and then we went back to committees. And I do feel that in our committee reports, when we come, we only just give a very small snippet of what's going on. And I think some of the questions that our community could have could be answered if they were able to view those committee meetings. In addition to that, over and over again, it said, as a full board, if you want to know what's going on in the committees, then come and attend the committee meeting. And not everyone can attend 4 meetings a month, or something comes up. So even for our own, if they are recorded, live streamed or recorded, so we can replay them, if we miss a committee meeting, we can then hear what was said then. And so I think it would be worth a try to see if indeed people would get that upset about if they can't understand that these are just ideas. This is where the work is being done. Because over and over again, we heard with citizens' comments, we heard with our interview process, and there have been times when I've missed the meetings and would have liked to know what was going on. I think it is the public's right to hear those committee meetings. And if that means recording them or live streaming them, then I think that's what we need to do as a board.
Do we know what that costs? Is there a cost?
I'll raise my hand. You just yell out, okay?
Yeah, what was that?
So we pay our guys. Hopefully we pay you guys.
What about you, Kevin? You're paid, yeah?
And so we're going to have to learn to speak into the microphones all the time.
Yeah, because we're not even doing very well tonight.
And the facilities, if we move.
You have to speak into the microphone, Art.
Yeah, I know. We only were given one between him and
If we do like we've been doing all these tours for the grade schools, that can't be live streamed.
No, that would not be.
I mean, that's just part of, I understand. But like Sherry said, everybody mentions the transparency, and we've worked hard. I think we have to make sure people know we're transparent.
I agree with Cherry.
So,
I think as often as we can, we should definitely have them live stream for everybody. It's transparent. People can see it. And I think a lot of the questions people have, I think, would be squished by seeing the committee meetings, and they can see what's happening, and they see how transparent we are being.
We might have to change how we do it.
Without a doubt. I think there is value to it. I am throwing up all the caution red flags, is what I am saying here. Because in terms of transparency, even for the board, we have all of our minutes available. If you want to know what happened at a committee meeting that you weren't able to make it to, you read the minutes. If you have questions, you reach out to the administration or to the board that was there. I mean, effort is involved. So we as board members need to be making sure we're doing our due diligence and doing our job to the best of our ability. And if we can't be someplace and we have questions, then we follow up when we do that. I don't think live streaming, just to help us board do our job better, is a good enough reason for me. If it's transparency for the community, I think that's a great idea. The red flag number one is that there is so much dialogue going on that I guarantee you, based on what's happened over the last 3 years, that it will be a very big challenge clearing up communication moving forward.
What about how if we just do the finance committee for a while and see how it goes? Because there is so much information at this meeting, just thinking out loud. Would that be a good start, maybe?
That's a good idea.
Just
Start it with one.
I think this discussion also leads into a committee structure
I think the
discussion
people
as
would
well.
really like that, Craig.
And you wear a tie. You always look so good at those committee meetings. You do. You shave your head. It's good stuff.
We do recognize that our Finance and Facility Committee meetings have been longer than our other committee meetings, and that we do need to get a little better balance. Some of the things that Tom brings to Finance and Facilities, we are seriously considering bringing to personnel in the future. So, for example, this health insurance discussion, that really belongs in personnel. And so we are going to try to get a better balance starting after we create our new committees, after the board president creates the new committees.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And I think now that I believe that the community knows we try as hard as we can to be transparent. I believe that. I hope they do.
Is there a difference in cost in live streaming versus recording it and just throwing it out there? It's all the same for you guys? Okay.
You mean like an audio recording, or just
Well, no, just
record it and
eventually
then
throwing it on YouTube like the next
Got
day.
it, got it.
But versus doing both, because right now we do both for like these, don't we? We don't live stream.
the live stream stays posted after the fact? Yeah.
Okay.
So this is not an action item. You were looking for guidance on.
Right, I was looking for guidance, and then I can bring back more information, and we can make a decision. But if you want us to try the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting in May, we can do that as well. But again, it is dependent upon finding the personnel to work on those evenings.
I think it's worth a try. For the sake of transparency, I do think it's worth a try.
Okay.
I say we give it a few months and we revisit and see how we're doing.
I'm sure maybe Vito will say something really dumb and we were, you know.
Oh, that's virtual guarantee.
Or
Guaranteed.
can we monitor views, and if it's not getting any
Our views, I think we monitor how well the transparency attempt plays out. If it causes more confusion or questions, then we talk about it and we revamp if need be. If it works out well, add another committee or add them all. I don't know.
Yeah.
We haven't done it, so I think it's worth a try.
Caroline, what you're asking, see how many people are watching it?
I just want to know how many people are watching.
Yeah.
See
Uh,
what our hits are like.
Super popular.
They don't want to come to the committee meetings, so maybe they'll watch it on, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
Looking to monetizing that, see if we can make
get some
money
ads.
on this.
Okay.
See, that'll be taken
Vito
out of
the
context
influencer.
right there. Vito's monetizing our YouTube feed. Yeah.
Tom? I know
Except
Tom's
he's
in-
good for it,
Tom's
so.
in favor of it.
Okay, moving on.
Moving on then, I'm gonna actually delay the discussion about Rowan Hills as an election site. I did not get a chance to talk to the administrative team about modifying the calendar. Real quickly, again, Rowan Hills does serve as an election site for the town of Mukwonago, and on November 8th of 2022, there will be a high turnout election. That's the gubernatorial Senate election, and so there will be a lot of people there. So we have to, right now we do have school at Rowan Hills on November 8th, and so I need to take a look at the calendar with the administrative team tomorrow morning. I'll come back with a recommendation.
I do think it's a great opportunity for the public to see how great our schools are. But you're talking, it may be a safety thing? With no kids, right? I mean.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there are some people with that concern.
Okay.
And then a board work session date. So we're still looking to get that date where we all meet, talk about the plans for Parkview Middle School, talk about the grade level configuration, whether sixth grade should be with seventh and eighth, and then also our 4K program. And I will send you an email on that.
Okay. All right, so in your, are you good, Sean? Was that it?
Pardon me?
Is that it for your?
That's it, yeah, thanks.
Okay, so in your folder on the table, you have your committee selection form. There are 3 options on there. I would like for you to please rate them 1 through 3. Do not just put an X by the one you want.
Out of curiosity, why did you fill yours out? You pick.
I am a rule follower, Vito, so I filled mine out. That's why. So I will collect those, and I will send out an email later this week after I've had a chance to go over them, and then you will know which committee that you are on prior to Monday, in case you're on learning committee and you gotta show up.
Rip it in half, you freak. Don't lose arts. It's,
And if I don't have yours, I put you where I want you. Just kidding.
Happens either way.
That's not true. Otherwise, I would have done it already. Would you like me to sign you right now before I look at it? No. I want to know where you would like to be. Okay. And then that's really all I have. I will follow up with you all regarding those committees. But I believe Sean does have some recognition.
Yeah,
Yes?
the legislation.
The legislation and correspondence. Or did we get it all done earlier? Skills USA.
So I think, yeah, Skills USA. So we should congratulate our Skills USA competitors. Several of our MHS students won gold or silver and thus qualified for the national competition in Atlanta this summer. And so if you look at my memo, you can see that Michaela Doyle took first place in pin design. Kira Goldbach, Sabrina Stewart, and Austin Smith took first place in engineering design. And then also Katie Utzerath took second place in t-shirt design. And we also want to thank Ryan Germain and Ken Reed, instructors at MHS in the CTE department. They're our advisors for Skills USA. So great job by those guys.
Congratulations to them.
Yep.
Okay, so we now have executive session before us. I would make a motion that we move into executive session.
I will second.
And Jerry, if you could roll call us out.